Three blessings. Can we start? Good day, everyone. I'm John Gerber, and I'll be your facilitator for our financial wellness webinar, Navigating Personal Lines and Professional Indemnity Insurance in collaboration with Aon South Africa. Just first and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself. I am John Gerber. Like I said, I currently work for Davens Consulting Engineers as a civil technologist with over a decade of experience in stormwater management, road rehabilitation, and maintenance of infrastructure. Throughout my career, I've developed a strong expertise in technical problem solving, construction oversight, and project management, ensuring that projects run effectively and deliver sustainable engineering solutions. Currently, I serve as an assistant route manager, where I oversee all technical aspects of road maintenance, contracts, and stormwater drainage assessments. I take pride in guiding engineering teams, mentoring junior professionals, and ensuring project execution aligns with technical and regulatory standards. My attention to project planning, budget control, and stakeholder communications help drive success in long-term infrastructure resilience. I hold a national diploma and BTech in civil engineering from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. My dedication to professional growth has led me to become an active member of the CESA YPF, where I chair the Western Cape Division, contributing to industry engagement and knowledge sharing. I'm also a facilitator for our up-and-coming YPF Imbizo. Additionally, my PMP certification strengthens my ability to lead structured projects, execution, and make strategic decisions that enhance project outcomes. I approach engineering with precision, collaboration, and adaptability, consistently seeking ways to improve engineering solutions, passionate about mentorship and innovation, and I strive to implement sustainable solutions and meet both technical, practical demands, ensuring progress in the field of civil engineering. Before I introduce our speakers for today, first and foremost, I just would like to thank our sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. I'd just like to individually thank Zutari, Kufanikiwa, Knight Peacock Consulting, Schmeck, InSync, Jones & Wagner, Rom H, MPA Mod, and our silver sponsors M&A, Mariswa, and Shumba Engineering Services. So just give them a round of applause. So for myself, setting the scene for our financial wellness event, it is an honor and pleasure to officially welcome everybody today, where we explore personal lines, professional indemnity insurance in collaboration with Aon. In today's increasingly risk-aware environment, insurance isn't just a legal checkbox. It's a strategic safeguard for both personal assets and professional responsibilities. Whether it is a homeowner protecting their property or an engineer navigating their ability in a high-stakes project, tailored coverage plays a critical role. This session explores the distinct but interconnected worlds of personal lines and professional indemnity insurance, revealing how each meets unique protection needs and empowers individuals and professionals to operate with confidence. Let's unpack the value, the nuisance, and the practical impact of getting coverage right, from everyday risk to reputable resilience. Just before I introduce our first speaker, please feel free to post questions in our Q&A chat box, and we will address it in our Q&A session right at the end. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Njabulo Mahlangu. He's a dynamic and result-driven leader with a passion for unlocking performance and driving strategic growth across high-volume sales environments. With a solid track record of developing impactful solutions in affinity and volume sales space, Njabulo remains analytical precision with people-first leadership, ensuring that every team, partner, and client achieves meaningful success. His career spans with over a decade of progressive experience in sales management, channel development, and customer engagement, positioning him as a trusted figure in navigating complex market dynamics. Njabulo drives in fast-paced environments, consistently leading with innovation, collaboration, and a relentless commitment to excellence. A firm believer in the power of empowerment, he cultivates a culture of ownership, accountability, and his team's driving performance, not just by targets, but by purpose. Njabulo, the floor is yours. You may share your screen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you see my screen? Just thumbs up.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing mine.
Yeah, then it's just stop sharing me.
You can share your screen, Njabulo. There we go. I see your screen.
In a changing and uncertain world, people come under increasing pressure to make important decisions more often. Some are easy, others are difficult, but all with potential to have a profound impact. At Aon, our values define who we are. We are committed to help shape better decisions. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that lovely introduction. At Aon, we focus on two key important issues in our economy, which are firstly risk, and secondly is people. Now, I'm going to speak a lot around personal lines. So at Aon South Africa, in terms of our portfolio of solutions, we focus on four key main areas. The first one being personal lines. Around personal lines, we have designed a range of well-established, unique household and motor insurance, which are among one of the best in the industry. The second one is around commercial risk solutions, where we offer a risk advisory, risk transfer, and structured solutions that helps organizations as well as individuals. In terms of our reinsurance solutions, mostly we deal with businesses, large and small, governments, as well as our communities need to be more resilient. Our expertise and help, we help reinsurers navigate uncharted territories and create more relevant solutions. Last but not least, we also offer retirement as well as health solutions. We provide retirement investments, human capital, global benefits, and exchange solutions that help our clients as well as communities. In terms of our products and solutions, we offer risk. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through the entire list, but some of our key strategic focus areas are around affinity programs, claims advocacy, technology, majors and solutions, private risk management. Secondly, on retirement, we offer actuarial services, governance, legal consultations. In terms of help, we do brokerage and consulting, specializing in global benefits consulting, as well as executive benefits. Last but not least, insurance placement. We do information repository, capital model around platforms, as well as catastrophe models. So, what's the importance of having a broker as a young professional? So, as part of your Aon broker solutions, our role is to help unpack the client experience in an increasing complex risk landscape, as well as helping you make better informed financial decisions. So the Aon team works closely with our clients to guide them through proactive risk management and insurance solutions. whilst also leveraging our global capabilities and relevant local experience to suit the South African market. When it comes to insurance, there is no one-size-fits-all approach, hence you will need a broker to guide you through the process. Now, when we tailor it down to personal insurance broking, Aon has got a wide range of established unique household and motor insurance broking solutions for individuals. Whilst cost is important, quality is also a factor. We identify your needs through our needs analysis at the point of sale. We provide you with advice and guidance through personal and face-to-face consultations. We've got a wide network of branches across the country. We guide you in terms of risk absorption, risk mitigation, as well as risk transfer. We also recommend insurance products that meet your needs. As I said earlier, not one size fits all when it comes to insurance. We also provide you with technical expertise on claims. We guide and support you throughout the journey. On household and motor insurance product range for our young professionals, we do have a wide range of products. Aon also offers bespoke in-house insurance that's underwritten by Santam. One of our products is the Aon Classic products, which caters to our mid-market. We also have the Aon Private, where we offer full accidental cover for your personal assets. We also cover business goods at home. We also working closely with Discovery as one of our partners. We work with Hollard. We also provide Hollard Private, which is for more our mid-market tier, as well as Hollard Prestige for the more affluent high network individuals. We also have partnered with Old Mutual, who've got over 100 years of experience in insurance, where we also do cover your car, home, personal liability, and all risk insurance. In an ever-changing digital world, we also offer Funds Protect. With Funds Protect, if ever you incur financial losses due to fraudulent conduct of criminals or anyone who has a bank account and you're transacting online, Funds Protect will be able to assist you. This is for your businesses, your trust accounts, and we cover specifically funds that are lost due to fraud. Now, one of the major key impacts of this is the product is affordable. It covers funds that are transferred by you, as well as funds that are not transferred by you, but they are lost due to fraudulent activities. There is no excess payable on this particular product. You can transact with confidence online, knowing that you are taken care of should something go wrong. And then you can also avoid stressful disputes in your businesses. Now, in terms of affordability, this is available for as little as 20 Rand per month for individuals and up to 90 Rand for businesses. We also have Zone Alarm, which covers your device from cyber attacks. Things like, this is a new feature that we just added recently, a customizable web content filtering feature. We also provide secure firewall solutions. So basically what you covered for on Zone Alarm, we cover things like anti-phishing, safe browsing, Wi-Fi network security. We're not saying go and connect at McDonald's, but should you do that, we'll definitely cover you. Okay, so no more worrying about your photos or your credentials, your apps, as well as your data being stolen or compromised. Zone Alarm is there to assist you. One of our products that we recently launched is our pet insurance. For those who love their dogs and cats, we cover you with up to 25% discount for pet food at different suppliers that have partnered with us. You can access your benefits instantly when you claim for your vet visits and routine care checks with one plan card. This one is available from 160 per month per pet. We also offer multiple pet discounts if you've got more than one pet. In terms of our cover, it's mainly for your cats and dogs. And lastly, it's a hassle-free policy that you can sign up and understand easily. So with insurance, it's usually a grudge purchase. If you had to choose between bread and butter issues, usually people will choose bread and butter. But when it comes to the claims, that's where you actually get to see the value of having insurance. So as Aon, one of the things that we've done, and this is new to industry and the market, is having a claims advocacy team. Now, with our claims advocacy team, what they do is they gather information from clients to ensure all your information is gathered during this traumatic time. We handle the process for emergency services. We advise you on all the documentation that is required. We confirm your accesses for you, as well as advice on the step-by-step process of claiming. I'm now going to hand over to the next speaker, which is Sam, who's going to speak to you guys around professional liability and negligence.
Hi, Njabulo. Just before Sam, thank you for your presentation. Really appreciate it. I just want to take the opportunity to also to give Sam a present for her introduction to her. So will you just be able to stop sharing your screen? I can just quickly introduce.
You want me to stop sharing quickly?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then can you just tell me if you can see and hear me? Okay, there we go. I think you can see me.
Yes, we can.
Is my presentation on?
Yes. Yeah, I can see you in your well, I can just see the presentation there, the CESA one.
There we go. All good. Sorry about that. Here we go. Right. So just thank you again. Our second speaker is Sam Varela. I hope I said that correct. She serves as a principal legal risk advisor at Aon South Africa, holding an LLB degree in an admitted attorney. Additionally, Sam was a finalist in the 5th season of Insurance Apprentice, and her interest lies in risk management within the professional indemnity sector, particularly concerning the built environment and medical practice within the law areas. So Sam, thank you very much for joining our team. You can share your screen.
Thank you. Can you stop sharing quickly?
We'll do that.
Right, and you can see my slides, you can hear me nicely, and you can see me.
All loud and clear. You're ready to go.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so without any further ado, thanks so much for having me and for inviting me to this session. Professional liability, risk, and negligence really is, my passion, and it's something that I eat, sleep, and breathe in every part of my job every day. So I thank you so much for just giving us this opportunity to take you through something that really, really does get us excited. There we go. Sorry, I just had a bit of a delay on my slides. Okay, so today I'm just going to chat to everyone in the room a little bit about what exactly professional liability is and what are the causes for professional liability, and also just help everybody understand a little bit more about what we call this concept of negligence. What is negligence and how does it work? It really is something, and I always say this, that liability and risk is not just something that you consider as a byproduct. It's an essential part of any business. And it really goes in hand with what we call the sources of risk, because each type of risk gives rise to a separate type of liability. So if we just consider the following, first type of liability exposure that we have for our consultants or our young professionals is what I call professional liability. Professional liability essentially means the responsibility that one owes as a professional to everybody that they perform services for. But that isn't only paying clients, that's also the community at large. So if you think of, for example, you are an engineer and you're assisting, or you're the lead engineer on the design of a bridge, and there is a collapse and there's third-party damage to property, there's loss of life, and it's a catastrophic event. Essentially, that's what we call professional liability, that liability that you owe that is very onerous, not only to the paying clients, but to the community at large. The next one I have there is what we call statutory liability. So that is, for example, written law or written pieces of legislation and regulation. So if we think of, for example, the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the construction regulations, those are definitive laws, acts that have been enacted by Parliament, or regulations, which are essentially the guidebooks to those acts. That is what we call the statutory liability. So generally, those pieces of legislation or regulations will dictate who can and how they can be then held liable for non-compliance. The next one I have there is what we call delict, or in other countries, in the UK, and I think also in the United States of America, they refer to this as what we call tort. And delict essentially is a separate legal discipline entirely on its own. It's a year-long course in the LLB degree, so I'm not going to try and give a crash course in 15 minutes. And just a proviso, it's also one of the toughest courses of the LLB degree. It's not an easy course, and for the simple fact that, to summarize that, is essentially that it's very difficult to prove a delict against somebody. I've put this into the presentation simply because, you know, you do have the responsibilities to your clients that are paying you in terms of a contract. But just because someone's not signing a contract with you doesn't mean that they can't sue you. And essentially, they will sue you in terms of what we call the law of delict. It's not the easiest method to proceed in terms of, because all of the elements of a delict have to be proven. But essentially, the gist of it is, you know, just because you're not signing contracts and you are doing work for no fee with no contract in place does not exempt one professional from any kind of liability. And then the next one is what we call contractual liability. So for all intents and purposes, my hope is that all professionals are signing contracts, but there are provisos to that. Essentially, what I mean by that is, if you are signing a contract that is to your detriment, you know, that doesn't help you in the event of a claim. So yes, I encourage everybody to sign a document and to sign a written formal appointment, but to make sure that what they're signing ultimately protects them should a claim arise. And there are some great standard forms out there. CESA have some great consulting appointment agreements, back-to-back sub-consulting agreements, and there's a whole host of documents, suite of documents that one can have a look at to protect them. And really, those documents are drafted from a very neutral perspective. They are not in favor of one or the other party. They really are well-drafted documents that get to the point of what needs to be said without having an 80-page document. And those are readily available to consultants. So what are some of your roles and responsibilities? Well, essentially, anybody that's employed by a company has some form of their own personal liability. Yes, there is a company or firm's liability that will protect one in terms of what we call vicarious liability, where essentially a company takes on the responsibility for any claims that might be brought to light by a professional engineer or by any professional in any entity. But that does not absolve one from any personal liability. There is always some element of personal liability to the work that's conducted by a professional. So if I think there, in terms of criminal liability, if there's been culpable homicide, if there's been loss of life, a company can't be held liable for that. They will then be held liable for the damages portion or the monetary portion of that, potentially fines and penalties that are imposed by the Department of Labour, if there's breach of the OSH Act, etc. But there is always that element of personal liability, even in terms of those pieces of legislation. There are a variety of different types of appointment applicable. These are just to name some of them. There's a direct appointment that you may have or your firm may have with a client. When a client appoints a principal consultant who then goes ahead and appoints a professional team, so a variety of professionals on the site in different disciplines. So he might have a civil, or she might have a civil, structural, electrical, mechanical, an architect, QS, etc. So there's a whole host of professionals being brought in on the site. When a contractor appoints a professional, that's not necessarily the most traditional type of appointment or form of appointment, but we know that it does exist. Then we have a joint venture of professionals. Essentially, what that means is a group of parties coming together, joining forces to provide an end result to the client. There's different types of joint venture agreements. We have an incorporated and an unincorporated joint venture, but essentially a joint venture in its core can be a very risky type of appointment because of the liability that comes from it. What I mean by that is there is joint and several liability. So ultimately you could be held responsible for the mistake or claim of any party in your joint venture. And then turnkey arrangement, essentially that is a variety of services that are being provided by one individual, can even be a variety of individuals who are appointed directly by the client. And then EPCM type arrangements, I won't go into too much detail about that, but essentially the engineering, procurement and management and even the construction element of the project. So that really is tying in all areas of the services to provide that complete, if I can call it, building to the client. And then a consultant appointing a contractor or a principal contractor, which is essentially a little bit more of the traditional way it is done. But my sort of proviso there is to be very, very careful and mindful of those types of appointment, in the sense that you would then be held responsible if you are making the direct appointment. And it's important to make sure you've got the right covers to protect the business from that. We have an excellent team who deals with contractors or risk insurance that we can put you in touch with. Professional indemnity insurance essentially is not there to cover construction-related risks. There are policies designed for that. So if you are, or if your business is undertaking physical construction, they need to consider that. And essentially, you really do need a broker who is an expert in these areas, these very niche areas of insurance, to guide you and put you in the right or the best position should you have a claim. Okay, so just a take-home slide maybe. For me, just one of the biggest concerns in a contract is really how one professional limits and caps their liability. So if there is a claim, we are there, or it's advised to put yourself in the best position possible should the claim arise. And what I mean by that is it is so important to understand the law of contract. And yes, I understand that the professionals are not acting as lawyers, they're not acting as risk managers. And that really is why it's so important to have a team by your side that can assist you with these types of functions. Ultimately, your contract is king. It is very difficult to argue in court around why a contract is not applicable if you have signed it. It is a binding document. When we speak of the paper negotiation, ultimately what that means is if you don't have a contract, and even if you do have a contract, it's important to make sure that you have documentation to prove the status quo. If there's a counter offer, that then would become what we call the paper negotiation. So it's important to record exactly what's happening on a project, what's being accepted, and what's the final version. To review your contract terms meticulously. I spoke a little bit earlier about the standard forms of agreement that are readily available, and one can go and purchase them on their respective websites. Beware of standard client forms of agreement. Ultimately, that can have a massive impact should a claim arise. Contractual terms, warranties, guarantees, fit for purpose. Ultimately, these clauses are dangerous in the sense that there is the possibility that they could render your policy, depending on your policy and how your policy is drafted, not applicable. A warranty with regards to services could potentially then render that policy not applicable. Service warranties are very dangerous, and fit for purpose I could speak on for the rest of today. But ultimately, fit for purpose essentially is not designed for professional services agreements. It's designed for the work of a contractor, and it emanates from what we call the UK Sale of Goods Act. We are not in the business essentially of providing goods as engineers, rather the business of providing professional services. Okay, managing and limiting liability. Really, the meat and bones of any contract, professional services contract, one can cap liability in terms of duration and quantum. And we have case law to that effect that allows one, deems it relevant and justified. In terms of this case, what we call the B&B Properties versus Mostert van den Berg. So we have a High Court judgment that says that a limitation of liability is absolutely valid and upheld. Okay, and that's it from me. I am going to jump in here and there on the next couple of slides if necessary, but I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Catherine.
Thank you, Sam. Really appreciate it. A lot of knowledge, a lot to take in. It's something to ponder about. It's really very important that we need to look at these type of aspects in every industry. So first and foremost, thank you very much. Really appreciate your input. Just our last speaker for today, Catherine Allardyce. She's a professional indemnity insurance specialist, specifically in the engineering and construction sector, coming from a construction background, with a deep technical knowledge and over a decade of experience, currently managing a complex and diverse engineering portfolio, providing tailored professional indemnity solutions that meet the ever-evolving needs of the engineering consultants. Catherine's approach is hands-on, working closely with clients to ensure that they are protected against professional risks, taking pride in translating complex policy wordings and liability risks into clear, actionable advice that helps professionals make informed decisions. She is also passionate about her role and can bring a technical edge and client-first mindset to every challenge. Catherine, the floor is yours. I'll stop clearing my screen.
I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you today, and why professional indemnity is a necessity as an engineer. As engineers, you design, build, and influence systems that affect lives, infrastructures, and businesses. With that great responsibility comes significant risk. Professional indemnity, what is it? I'm sure you all have some kind of, especially after Sam speaking to you, some kind of idea, but it's cover that protects you as engineers against claims of negligence, errors, or omissions made in the course of your work. It essentially covers you for the cost of defending a claim or a potential claim and any damages that may be awarded to a third party. It's not about whether you did something wrong, but whether someone alleges that you did. What does it cover? Slide's just a bit slow. Before we go on to the policy extensions, I just want to explain what a PI policy would cover. It covers you for negligence. For example, if you made a miscalculation in a structural design that led to costs or project delays or rework of the project. It would cover you for breach of duty, such as not meeting your contractual obligations or falling short of professional standards. Errors and omissions, even minor mistakes in plans, calculations, or specifications can result in such a significant loss for your client. It would cover your legal costs. This includes the cost of defending yourself in court or arbitration, even if the claim is unfounded. Unintentional breach of confidentiality. If proprietary designs or information is mistakenly disclosed, it would cover you for that. And consequential losses your client incurs because of your work. For instance, business interruption due to any engineering delay. Why is the policy extensions? So I'm going to put them all up there quickly and just so you can see them. Sam and I are going to talk to these all together. But at Aon, we pride ourselves in having a bespoke policy wording for our engineers, which is it's the widest cover in the market for our CESA members. There is no other cover out there in the market that would cover or has such a wide policy wording. There's numerous extensions on our policy provided, but the main ones we want to talk to is public liability. You would have noticed when you get a tender request or a requirement from a client, they always want you to know if you've got public liability cover. That covers you for third-party claim against you for loss or damage to property or injury to a third party on site. The legal liability arising out of work done in a joint venture, which Sam spoke to earlier, sub-consultants, employee dishonesty, fee recovery, mitigation of loss costs. We have numerous extensions to our policy, but these are where we see most of our claims coming or arising from. Exclusions. I'm handing over to Sam so she can explain them in a more legal manner.
Okay, so just to speak a little bit about what we call our policy exclusions, and these are inherent in any policy. Any policy you have a look at will have a definitive list of things that it doesn't cover. Essentially, our policy covers professional negligence. It is designed to cater for if you make a mistake, a professional mistake with regards to provision of services. So we have to go ahead and then, or the party making the allegation has to go ahead and prove what's known as this negligence. The test for negligence in our court really is what would the reasonable professional, and it's essentially called the reasonable person test, but it becomes the reasonable professional when we're dealing with a professional. What would they have done and what did they fail to do in that situation? Does their conduct fall short of the reasonable standard that is expected of them? But the catch-22 there really is that the standard is that much higher when you are a professional. What is being expected of you really is just that much more extensive. So these exclusions exclude things that really have nothing to do with that. The first little block there that we've got claims arising out of any property manufactured, constructed, installed, etc. That really just excludes any work that you do as a contractor. Remember, I spoke about our team that deals with contractors or risk insurance. This policy is not designed to cater for that, and therefore it's excluded. You'd have to, if you are doing these types of work or this type of work as a contractor, then go ahead and place what we call the contractors or risk policy. Liquidated damages, fines and penalties or performance warranties are also not covered. A liquidated damage really is just a definitive amount in a contract. So if you see delay damages, this would be excluded. A delay damage, defined amount, 2,000 Rand a day would be what we call a liquidated amount. A fine or a penalty is punitive in nature. It is intended to sort of stop the conduct from happening again, and we don't cover fines and penalties, just like performance warranties, which we spoke about a little bit earlier on. Liability arising from breach of contract, unless a breach of the or a breach of the professional duty is brought to light. The policy is not catered to deal with direct breach of contract. Again, it's really there to cater for negligence and a breach of your professional obligations, which then has to go through that process of being tested and proven. And again, guarantees, warranties, and fit for purpose are excluded by the policy because essentially those don't fit into professional services agreements. Okay, I'm going to hand over back to Catherine.
So why are we talking about professional indemnity work, and why is PI so important for engineers? Well, it's the complexity of your projects. Engineers often doing large-scale projects, which are technical, and even small errors can result in a multi-million Rand loss. Human error is inevitable. No matter how skilled or experienced, mistakes do happen. PI is that safety net. Contractual requirements. Many clients, especially government or large corporates, require you to have a professional indemnity policy in place. Protection for your business and reputation. A legal claim without insurance can cripple you financially or your business financially and tarnish your reputation. And another thing about PI is that it's a claims-made cover, which means that the policy that is in place at the time of a claim is the policy that's going to respond. So work that you did when you first started out, the claim may only come 10 years later. And as long as you've had continuous cover and your retroactive date is continuous, means from when you first took out the PI policy that you have cover in place continuously, then it will cover you for the past work, even if the claim comes 10 years later. Real life scenarios, you would be the best people to understand, but if, for example, if you provided a soil report that missed a subsurface condition leading to a foundation failure, a design consultant miscalculates load-bearing specifications, resulting in costly rebuilds, a subcontractor claims that the engineer's poor project performance cost them financially. In each of those cases, the PI policy would step in to manage your legal defense costs. Sorry about that. I'm going to give Sam to speak about the claims that we see.
Okay, so there's a variety of sort of situations that might give rise to any type of claim. So this isn't a definitive list. It's just a couple of the common trends of claims that we've been picking up or tracking over the last couple of years. And the first one I've got there is a misinterpreted design or specification. So remember when I spoke about the importance of correspondence and being able to document and justify what the true position is. I can't stress enough the importance of a detailed scope of services. That's essential if something does go wrong down the line. But even if we're not thinking of it from a claims perspective, it's so important for the parties to have clarity on what they are being appointed for, what capacity they're being appointed for, and the exact details of that appointment. Delayed or missing reports. Again, it's very difficult to prove something that you can't find. So to have access to those records are being backed up and stored somewhere that we can go and pull them up, and then a delay in that being then provided. Poor communication or misunderstood advice. This speaks to the first little block that we've got there. Contractual disputes. So that is a fight happening around the terms and conditions stipulated in the contract. More than the safety net is what we essentially call the PI policy. PI insurance really does also reflect what we call professionalism. It's so important to do business with companies and entities that are considering their own risk management. And I think that's a direct representation or a direct reflection of your business if you do have PI insurance, because it shows that you're considering your own risk, you're considering the longevity of your own business by protecting that and by protecting the interests of your business to make sure there is catering and a safety net and a consideration should something go wrong, that you are protecting not only your business, but also your client. It builds client trust relationships, it shows accountability and preparedness, and it really supports what we call this confident decision making, putting you in the best position possible to be able to provide the best service for your client. And ultimately, mistakes do happen. Unfortunately, there are unforeseen events and they do take place. And we do have to be in the best position possible to defend a professional should something go wrong. And that really is what the policy is designed around. So just a final message, what must you do? Really, it's so important. I cannot stress enough, understand your policy scope and exclusions. PI is a very niche, specialized discipline of insurance that requires expertise, requires expert understanding, not only of your industry, but of the types of claims that come in, how to manage and to deal with those, and the risk management around that. To disclose your full range of services to your expert broker so that they can assist and that the underwriters can assist with putting together the best package and policy for you that is appropriate for your business. Notify your insurers as soon as you become aware of any incident. If you are unhappy with the services that you provided, if your client has raised any concerns, to just to raise that with your broker. Make sure that you are keeping your cover continuous with no gaps in cover. Because it is a claims-made basis policy, what that means is you need a policy in force at the time a claim arises. So if you cancel your policy or your policy lapses, there must be no gap in between that time and the time you take up a new cover if you are moving and changing your broker or your insurer. PI insurance really just once again is there to protect your work, your reputation, and your future, to be able to continue to provide services to your client. And that's where I speak about that longevity of your services. We are protecting what we have done, what we are doing, and what we are going to do in the future, which is so important. You should never treat PI as just a checkbox or a requirement as part of your tender. Yes, it is something that is asked for. Yes, it is a line item on a checkbox, absolutely. But it is so much more than that. It's a risk strategy. It's the ability for you to be able to have peace of mind and to give your clients peace of mind should something go wrong. it really is what we call part of the risk strategy. It's an essential consideration for any business. Stay informed, stay covered, and stay professional. Stay informed. How do you do that? There are great initiatives out there. There is a wealth of information out there, that you can sign on to. Webinars like this is a classic example of how you stay informed of what's out there, what the risks are, and what the safety nets are to protect your business. And that's where I speak about staying covered and absolutely staying professional, keeping in line with the requirements of what is expected of a qualified individual. There are EXA guidelines and there is legislation, Engineering Professions Act, that sets out the details of what an engineer needs to comply with from a legislative perspective. There are CPD requirements that are required of a registered engineer, that they have to stay up to date and informed with what's happening in the industry. Just a quick discussion on some of the other built environment insurances. Again, we spoke about the CAR, the Contractors All Risk Insurance, Design and Construct, Principal Controlled Insurance, and other additional types of policies. This is something we can assist you with all of those different types of policies, where and how they might be applicable, that we can come in and give that advice. And then again, public liability. And that's it from us. Thank you for having us. And if there's any questions and you want to get into touch with us, we're always here. We're always here to support. Please reach out to us. If there's any questions now that you'd like us to take, we're happy to run through those quickly. But that's it from our team.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, team. For an insightful presentation. Really made us all think about getting PI personal insurance. So there's a lot of questions coming through on the webinar. So I think let's dive right into it. The first question, let's have a look. It's for professionals working as site engineers. In terms of the appointments, which one would it fall under? So maybe it's a random. We're having a nice chat, opening the chat, so anyone from the Aon team can jump into that. Let's try and keep it short and sweet. I see there's a lot of questions, so let's try and respect all the questions and get some answers. So anyone from Aon team can jump right into that.
So site engineer is a very broad term. I'm presuming that's an engineer that has to appear on site or has to be present on site. And I guess that could include any engineer. That could fall under any discipline: civil, structural, electrical, mechanical. Essentially, the Engineering Professions Act and the EXA guidelines, as far as I'm aware, they do dictate that there is a requirement to be present on site, or to periodically inspect the implementation of your design. And that would then require a site visit. So, I guess anybody that would have to be present on site, regardless of their discipline, that's not restricted to the type of engineering that you are appointed for.
Okay. No, 100%. I think for our nice Q&A, yeah, there we go. You can share your video. You can have a nice interactive chat.
Yeah.
Let's get
okay.
No,
Do you just
no,
want me
no.
to scroll through some of the questions and see what, I mean, we won't get to all of them, but maybe we can ask some of them.
Yeah,
There's
sure,
a
100%.
nice one here. I'm just going to hand over.
All right, you can go for it.
Okay, I'll just take one or two from my side from a personal lines perspective. What are the most important types of personal insurance and every individual or employer should consider today? A very nice question. And the second one there says, how does Aon help clients assess whether they are underinsured or overinsured? Okay, I think I'll take both at the same time. So basically, us as Aon are the broker. The first thing when you come to us that we do is obviously do a client needs analysis. I think that's the first and most important step, just to try and understand what are your needs, what's your exposure, what keeps you awake at night, and then what we then do with all the information that we gather, we then go to market to try and find the best possible solutions. That's why we've got different underwriters for different types of insurance. To prevent whether you are under underinsured or overinsured, back again to needs analysis, but we do have certain layers that we add into it. Things like we will send you an inventory form if you're taking out householders insurance as an example, just to make sure that everything that you want covered is actually covered. We also provide clients with assessors. We can send out an assessor, but it's at your own cost to do an evaluation as an example on your building, just to make sure that you are adequately covered. We also do yearly reviews. We call it renewals on your policy, just to make sure that have you bought an extra TV set in the last 12 months, just to make sure that your insurance is up to date. On a yearly basis. I think those are the two from my side. I'll just give my other colleagues an opportunity as well to answer if there's anything from their side.
So I'm looking at this one. What are the most common claims Aon sees under PI policies, and how can professionals mitigate these risks? So we see so many claims, and there's been a spike in claims in recent times. I'm not too sure if it's because people realize that there is a PI policy to claim against, or the economy, or whatever it is, but we do see claims. Design miscalculations is one of the biggest claims that we see. A lot of buildings going down, but not just buildings, but parking spaces, not enough parking spaces in shopping malls, that type of thing. So we do see a lot of claims under the design miscalculation. We have seen of recent as well on the geotechnical side, soil. So when an engineer first went to site, the soil was fine, but within 2 years the soil had changed, but had not gone and done another soil analysis. Numerous claims. So there's so many. We have an extension of cover called costs of fee recovery. This means a client doesn't pay you because they allege that you have done something wrong. Your insurance or this policy will come into place and defend you for what the client has said you've done wrong, to ensure that you get your fees paid across. So they'll defend you in court. So we do see those types of claims coming up. To mitigate these risks, I'm sure Sam can talk to it as well, but peer reviews, making sure there's a QMS in place, making sure that before going to site, there is someone assisting. If it's a younger person going to site, that there is that guidance along that. I do think, we have so many specialists, and I know a lot of our bigger engineering firms still employ retired engineers because they specialize in a specific field. So I would say from that point of view, peer reviews, quality management systems are very important in the PR space. Sam, do you want to add anything?
I think in terms of the mitigation, maybe, just to echo what we spoke about earlier on the contracting side, making sure that your contracts are watertight, number one, making sure you have the correct, adequate, enough, and appropriate insurance, and that you have a broker that knows and understands PI insurance. Making sure that if you are making appointments of other parties, or even if you're being appointed, that you have the correct documentation in place and that document is not prejudicing you. And also back-to-back agreements. So if you are signing a document and in turn then going on to appoint a sub-consultant, that the correct flow of documents is there and that you can reference it, you can find it, and that it's applicable and appropriate. That's it from me.
Sure. Very well done. I must say, it's a difficult avenue to exploit if you don't have personal insurance. But picking up the trends in industry, I think it's crucial that we need to dive into, especially in the engineering field or civil engineering, mechanical engineering, any engineering, is that mistakes are at a cost. And Aon, if you bring the mistakes to Aon or to a personal insurer, that can be mitigated. As engineers, we don't strive to make mistakes. It just happens. We don't aim to make mistakes so that we can get BI. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic of the room and how you guys approach each scenario, to give us some tips on what is important. Going back to basics, make sure your documentation is correct. And thank you for highlighting that in your answers. I think let's go on with our next question is that what's the best practices should engineering professionals follow when offering discounted fees to ensure they remain adequately covered under the PI policy? I don't know if someone can jump into that, or maybe you can have an open discussion.
Yeah,
You can do.
I don't see the exact question, but I know that it's obviously about the fee discounts. And ultimately, essentially what that means is if you are offering your client a discount, the question is, can you provide the service that you would have provided? Would you have charged full price for the job? Obviously, because different levels of seniority and speciality come at a different cost. So obviously, if you are then discounting your fees excessively, the insurers may then consider you or view you as a high risk, because the question must be asked, can you provide the level of skill, service, etc., and expertise that's required for that job at a discount of 80%? That just doesn't sound reasonable. So there's definitely no specific amount, but one must consider, can they provide the best possible service if they are then discounting their fees drastically?
Yes, no, I think that's definitely a conversation for another day. There's multiple factors that can contribute to that, but thank you for giving us that insight into that question as well. I think our next question is more driven towards our new line of how things are happening. We are emerging risks such as cyber liability and AI-driven errors being factored into current professional indemnity coverage. So with AI being a real thing, I think let's have a chat regarding that.
Okay, so that that cannot be understated. Cyber liability has been identified in our global risk survey as one of the leading risks that face businesses not only in South Africa but from a global perspective. With the use and the advent of AI enabling all of us, not only engineers, to be able to provide the end product, we know that there is the possibility for things to go wrong. With the innovation comes risk. Yes, the innovation of AI has made life easier for a lot of us, and I guess for the built environment too, it will do that. With models like BIM, even ChatGPT, this is changing the way and the landscape of how one does business, which is exceptional, great and innovative, but again, then opens up the doors and possibly the floodgates for claims to come in associated with that. Remember, the PI policy is designed to cater for the risk and the negligence of the engineer. How can we then hold the machine, the model, liable for the mistake of the engineer, and how do we prove whose mistake it is? So the lines may become very blurred when there is a claim. We are in discussions with underwriters. They're very aware of this new risk. I don't really want to call it new because it's not that new, but it's on our desk and we are considering it, and the policies will in most likelihood be amended to cater for this type of risk. I even possibly foresee tailor-made products and solutions designed to cater for that. The cyber element of the risk, we do have cyber liability policies. We have a dedicated team at Aon of experts and consultants who are able to help place those policies. We even offer what we call a CIQ assessment, which is really a diagnostic risk assessment that a firm can undertake to establish the risk areas of their business. I can't stress enough how important this consideration is for any business. Cyber liability is a very real risk. Hack attacks, etc., misuse of one's information, using commercially sensitive information for a purpose. It really is a risk that must be considered. So great question, and contact us. We're here and we can help with those things.
Yeah, no, definitely noted. I think our next question also adds on to that. If you don't have BI, personal insurance, that there is multiple factors that can come your way. Anything in terms of cyber tax claims, I think the industry is just, if you don't have, then you will be in trouble. Even if you work on multi-million rand or billion rand projects and something small goes wrong, that's potentially door closing. And I think it's essential that we need to also take in mind that PI is a real thing that you must have going forward. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. So sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
there, but I just can't stress that enough. And one can't think that because they don't have an insurance policy that they're not liable. They are still liable. The business is liable. And we go a step further to say that, remember, we spoke about one can't hide behind the corporate veil. There is vicarious liability applicable to a company. Yes, the company remains responsible for the mistakes of the individuals that work for the company, but there's always an element of personal liability. So one can't sort of hide behind that corporate veil and say, well, there's no insurance policy. This is the company's mistake, and I'm now not going to be held liable. There's always that aspect of liability, which is why these policies are designed to cater for those risks.
Yeah, and the point that we're also trying to make is that bring everything to your attention before it even happens, documentation from scratch, so that you are sure that your approach is covered. All right, so let's jump into, I'm just going to do a couple of more questions. This one here related to delays or missing information. How does the policy respond to claims made years after the service has provided, especially if the practitioner has retired or changed careers? I think we touched on that briefly, but I think let's expand a bit on that. Thank you.
Okay, so with regards to that, usually when an engineer retires, we offer what is called run-off cover. It is usually for a period of 3 years. With regards to a company closing down, same thing, we would offer the 3 years run-off cover. It kind of goes along with prescription, but you never know when a claim is going to arise. So it could happen 10 years after the business is closed down, and the claim could still come against you in a personal capacity. So it would depend on if you feel like you would need to carry on with the run-off cover, which would be annually renewable. But with regards to missing documentation, obviously insurers are going to take everything into consideration and try and get the facts and help you. So I don't think that would really affect. It would be obviously more difficult to defend you in a claim, but it would not affect, as long as the cover is being continuous, it would not affect a claim being met in that scenario.
Okay, no, 100%. And thank you for elaborating on that. I think it's also crucial that we understand what happens after you retire as well. And thank you for the question from our listeners. Just a couple more. Does Aon specialize in the mining industry? I think he's maybe in the mining industry looking for cover at Aon. So that's a brief nod. Yes, 100%. Catherine, do you want to add anything there?
So obviously also a lot of engineers, so the engineering policy from a PI perspective would cover you for your professional expertise in the mining industry. That's where your PI policy would respond. However, we do have, which would fall under the CAR, where you do the core drilling, the actual physical work. That would be more on the construction side. So yes, we do have specialists in the mining sector that help, and the PI policy that we have for our CESA members would cover a mining specialist. So yes, short answer, yeah.
Sure. I see you make mention of CESA members. I think this question is also diving into maybe we can explore there. Do CESA members receive any specific benefits or advantages when insuring through Aon?
So I will talk to the PI. Yes, obviously when we underwrite a policy as a CESA member, you are going to CESA for courses, for training, for the documentation, you would have a contract in place. So we would see that you would limit your liability. There would definitely be a contract in place. So there is benefits to being a CESA member. One thing we have negotiated on our cover is if you do limit your liability and you do have a QMS in place, if there is a claim and the damages are paid, your deductible or your excess is halved. So you're only going to pay 50% of your deductible. So we do have that benefit. And as a CESA member, when underwriting the policy, we would look at that and we would see that you are a professional, you belong to an association, you are following the quality management requirements that need to be in place. Nja, would you be able to?
Yeah, I think there's a related question, so I just wanted to tackle them both.
No problem, go for it.
Okay. So the short answer is yes, as a CESA member, you will definitely get additional discount if you insure with Aon. But the related question there was around what's the benefit of using Aon to get insurance as opposed to going straight to companies like your Hollard and Old Mutual Insure. If I could just maybe make an example, because firstly, the definition of insurance is the pooling of risk. So if we are going as Aon on your behalf to Old Mutual, we're able to negotiate better discounts for you than you would negotiate for yourself. As an example, if we're going to charge, Old Mutual was going to charge you R1 and you're coming through Aon because Aon has got this relationship with Old Mutual, they might charge you 80 cents. So there is definitely a benefit using us as your broker. I think the other benefit is, insurance is a grudge purchase. You only see the value when you claim. So imagine you just had a traumatic experience. Now you have to phone a call center. You don't get feedback, you phone again, somebody promises to call you back. But if you are using Aon, you've got a dedicated broker that services specifically you. So whenever you call in, you're going to ask for Njabulo, this is what has happened, or I want to add my vehicle, I want to put in a claim, and then Njabulo does the rest for you. So it's not only about the premium, it's also about the service and the experience that you will get from Aon.
All right, no, great. Thanks for that. I think also just to tag on with that question regarding the EMEs, if your EME is registered as a CESA member firm, then it's something that the insurance is costly. Definitely, we all know that. But if you, it's just basically answering that question. But do you look at a company turnover as your QSE and EMEs when evaluating the company and maybe also giving that discount back for companies like that?
So yes, absolutely. Turnover does form part, or it is considered when we obviously the higher you earn, the more risk there is because it's deemed the more work you're doing. So the professional indemnity policy is most probably going to cost more, but we look at everything. So when underwriting the policy with insurers and discussing it, another benefit of coming to Aon is that we would sit with an insurer and negotiate and say, this is the risk, this is where the client's risk sits or lies, and be able to negotiate that premium. You are not an insurance specialist, you are an engineer. You specialize in what you do. That's where your risk lies. Our risk lies in placing the cover, understanding your risk, and negotiating that premium for you. So that's where the benefit to going through a broker would lie.
100%. No, I fully agree. I think in closing, let's answer or tackle the last question. I see it's threefold, and then we can conclude. I know there's been a lot of Q&As, sorry for you guys. This is a very hot topic, and I think there's a lot of questions coming through that is very crucial. So how does the policy respond to claims for damages or losses that occur outside the engineering normal geographic area of practice, such as international projects? I think we can jump onto that. I think we more or less know the answer, but I think let's have a chat regarding that. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, so that really is what we call jurisdiction, and essentially our insurance caters, it's a worldwide policy. We cover our clients for everywhere in the world that they provide services, but there are obviously some exclusions. Sanctioned countries are excluded, and then in addition to that, North America and Canada are excluded, but one can always chat to their broker with us to take up that cover there. All of that being said, if you are providing services in another country, it is very important that you are familiar with all of the laws and the regulations that are applicable in that country, because those laws would then essentially become applicable to you providing services in their country. What are their admission requirements as you providing engineering services in their country? Do they recognize you as an ex-engineer, or do they require certification with their own regulatory body? Is there legislation in place in their country that requires you to place cover there locally? So we call that admitted or non-admitted insurance in the country. So there may very well be, in terms of their insurance laws, a requirement that you place up to the maximum capacity of cover in their country. There are countries, neighboring countries around South Africa like that do exist, that have those requirements around placing local cover in that country. Normally, the capacity of that country might not necessarily be the amount of cover that you require, but we will assist you with that arrangement. Normally, that then acts as a policy who covers up to the maximum limit that they can, and then we kick in and cover the difference. But again, this is just another example of the very niche, detailed discussion that needs to happen with a broker who knows and understands the risk applicable to the business, and then also has the leverage and the capabilities from a global perspective. And Aon really does have that global footprint. So we do have partners in our neighboring countries and all over the world that can help with those placements.
Yes, 100%. And just to conclude, it's a very memorable occasion for us yearly in the engineering industry. And I want to add up to our last question is that CESA Aon Awards are almost here. The red carpet is being rolled out. The suspense is real. Which superstar division of Aon is behind the magic of this year's sponsor?
So the professional indemnity team for sure, and we will definitely be there dressed up to the nines to come and meet all of you. So thank you for that. There is a little proviso there at the bottom that this is the Aon's construction and engineering. So our team don't do construction. We purely do professional indemnity. So we primarily work with the engineering. Catherine heads up our professional indemnity engineering team, but we do have the construction capability. So Aon has various departments. We are a global organization with these individual capabilities. So if you're doing engineering and construction, I would be absolutely happy to put you in touch with our contacts in that team and to guide you through that relationship.
Yes, and I'm not mistaken, I will be also facilitating your session for the INBIZO. So then I think we'll have a chat regarding that offline. I think I'm looking forward to that. And I also had the privilege of meeting Catherine in person, and just your professionalism as Aon really resonates through the room. And for this today, I would like to conclude and say thank you to Aon team for being here for us in PI insurance, for being here for us in the industry. And we thank you all for giving the time and effort to come and present to us. We really learned a lot. I think our speakers and the questions that came through were very interesting. Just from my side, CESA, I would like to thank you. And yes, thank you very much, Aon. For this, I will conclude our session, our webinar, and I'm looking forward to our next engagement session regarding PI and financial wellness. Thank you very much. Godfrey, anything in closing?
No, thank you very much, everyone. we're gonna end this session.